What's up, y'all? Sparta here. So, for this video, what I want to do is I'm going to talk about this whole notion that if a phone doesn't have good computational photography, it's not good or whatever. And this is something to me that is very key, very important, because I feel that a lot of phones now, there really isn't much that makes one phone take better pictures than the other. One may be slightly more detailed. One may have different color temperature. One may be a tad better with HDR processing. But overall, I do feel that every single phone that has come out within the past couple of years has done a very good job. Now, the main reason I'm talking about this now, and apologies, I can't boot the Note 10. The Note 10, I need to get this phone fixed, despite the fact that it's basically pristine. The the problem is the wireless charging pad got unseated, and they use that as a temperature regulator for the battery. And once that gets unseated, you know what happens? You can't charge the phone anymore. So, can't do anything about that. And my S20 FE is charging because that's my work phone. So, can't really do anything. So, G8, Note 10, OnePlus 6T. Recording this on an LG V60 with not very optimal lighting, but what can you do? And not obviously not on a tripod. So, yeah. What does each phone do? I'm gonna do LG G8 slash LG V60, but since I'm using a V60 to record this, I can't really show you guys. But you guys have seen multiple times on my channel the comparisons between, say, an iPhone 12 Pro Max and the V60, and the vast majority of people tend to lean towards the V60 and how it takes pictures over what the iPhone does, in my comment section alone. So, and for me personally, obviously, let's get into this. LG. Starting with the G8, LG started to improve with their HDR processing. With the G7 and the G6 and the V40 not the V40 was actually good. The V30, V20 and stuff like that, LG wasn't necessarily the best when it came to HDR processing. They tend to have a more flat, natural look to their photos. And overall, they just didn't really do all that much when it came to HDR. Now, with like, say, a V60 in particular, it's very similar in terms of like color temperature and output to like my Canon EOS Rebel T7, where colors tend to come out more cool. They tend to come out more satisfying looking and tend to look natural, but also give you a good kind of color that you would post to social media and it would look very nice. Samsung hasn't really changed since, say, the Note 5 days, where they oversaturate the photos. If there's any sort of white in the background, it'll overexpose for the white and it'll just not look very good. Highlights will get clipped. And for like sunsets and stuff like that, you will have to stop down the exposure a little bit. And it just really hasn't changed since then. The best way for me to shoot on a Samsung phone is to shoot in their Pro mode, because it gives you the most natural look out of what that camera can do. Samsung's manipulation and their color science is honestly hot garbage. So, to me, for people to say that Samsung is one of the top of the pack is kind of stupid, because if that's what being on top of the pack looks like, I'm good with my V60. I'm good with my S20 FE. I'm good with any other phone. I don't have a 12 Pro Max or any sort of iPhone here, but I can just, I guess, get the box. Let me adjust myself real quick. 12 Pro Max tends to be more on the hyper HDR side of things, where reds will be red and look very nice. It will have a natural tone to it and will look good. But to me, it's never really been the best out there. It's never been something that I feel gave me what I want out of a photo. iPhones do produce satisfying photos, but they just never have been my favorite. And that's personal preference. Obviously, if you like them, you like them. The 12 Pro Max has a slew of issues in terms of its output. So it's just something that you're going to have to deal with when you get that phone and learn how to work around, like, say, the lens dots, lens flaring, lens dots at night, lens flaring in the daytime and stuff like that. That's something you're going to have to work out a workaround if you have a 12 Pro Max and that's your primary shooter. That's something I've well documented on this channel pretty well. Look at my night photo comparison between V60 and a 12 Pro Max, and you'll see that you'll have lens dots sprayed all across in the center of an image. You'll have less detail. There's a lot of different things when you compare it to, say, a V60 it's just not as good. OnePlus 6T. This is basically just my OnePlus phone. From what I've seen in terms of like overall HDR output, they have gotten a little better. With the OnePlus 6T, the problem I tended to have was when I would take pictures of something like red apples or something like that, the red would be super red, like almost eye-piercingly red. And over time, that's honestly gotten more and more tame. It's not nearly as bad. And I really do like the camera on the OnePlus 6T. Some of my favorite shots have been with the OnePlus 6T. And color science is very Samsung-like, but I feel it's a Samsung that's more laid back and is not trying to punch you in the face with HDR colors. So that's very nice. I really don't have any sort of issue with that. I don't have a Pixel. I never had a Pixel. Last Google phone I had was a Nexus 4, so I can't really comment on that. But from what I've seen and what I've heard from people, they just tend to have more natural tones. They're very well detailed, despite the fact that they have an outdated 12 megapixel sensor on the back of the phone. They just do a very good job. And for me, that's all that seems to matter while I'm smudging the camera lens on my Note 10 here. They just do a very good job. What I feel is a very, very stupid thing and a very intellectually dishonest thing to do when it comes to tech reviewing is to just say something is bad because it doesn't do what another phone does. For example, the Sony Xperia 1 Mark II and the 5 Mark II have some of the best animal eye autofocus or eye autofocus you could get on a phone, period, right? Does that mean that when I go to a V60, I'm just going to hate the V60? No. I will wish the V60 had that, but I'm not going to say the V60 is trash because it doesn't have this. I won't say the iPhone is trash because it doesn't have that. And the iPhone also had issues focusing too, but that's really not anything that was that big of a deal for me personally. But for other people, it tended to be some sort of issue, which probably got fixed in some firmware updates down the line. If I end up getting another 12 Pro Max, I will test that and see if anything is improved. But overall, I just haven't seen anything that has proven me otherwise. To prove the contrary, rather. Another thing that I really don't like is that back in the days when iPhones still had 8 megapixel sensors and phones were coming with 16 megapixel sensors, people sat there and said, oh, we really don't need 16 megapixel sensors. 8 megapixel sensors are good enough. Blah, blah, blah. But now that Samsung has 108 megapixel sensors out, what do? They say, oh, the Pixel has a outdated 12 megapixel sensor. But then they don't say the same thing about a 12 Pro Max, which also has a 12 megapixel sensor. It just has larger pixels, which is better for low light performance, right? So why that bothers me is you're not being honest with your audience at all. You're just saying, lower megapixel count equals worse output, and that's not necessarily the case. Like I've detailed in this video overall, computational photography is very nice. LG has their ThinQ AI, which I personally think does a very good job now at telling what subject is what and exposing or doing certain things to the image to make that image look very nice. For example, my black cat probably, my V60 probably takes the best photos of my black cat out of every phone that I've used. Better than the S20 FE, better than the iPhone. The only thing that trumps it is my dedicated camera. And it's not really by much. So, yeah. In terms of this is all I really want to say. Don't let these tech reviewers tell you that computational photography is king, but when it's convenient for them, they want to say, oh, but look at this, bigger megapixels, more megapixels. That's what's better. Didn't say the same with the OnePlus 8 when it had a 48 megapixels camera. You didn't say the same with the V60 when it had a 64 megapixel camera. No, it just had one less sensor, so you cared about that and bashed the phone for that. This is Sparta. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for support. Hope you guys have a wonderful Friday, whatever time of day it is in the area. Let me know in the comment section below what you feel about this. Like the video if you like it, dislike it, share with people that are interested in this sort of content. And like I just said, have a good one.